Breakups are never enjoyable in any capacity, but some people have worse breakups than others, and I'm sharing those with you today. I'm Juli Bauer Roth, the food, fitness, and lifestyle blogger behind PaleoMG. Welcome to my channel. I'm here to share my favorite food, workout, and wellness tips to help you live your best damn life. Today we're talking breakups, and this came from when I recently asked you guys to share your relationship red flags when you were Tinder swindlered. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you were just blindsided by a person that you were dating. And that made me think, what are some worst breakup stories? Because I saw some in emails, so I asked you guys to send in your worst breakup stories, and I got a handful. So I'm going to share 5 or 6 from you guys today, and I think we're going to have a part 2 because everybody's got wild breakup stories. Actually, I don't know if I've had a wild breakup story. I've had sad breakups. My ex-boyfriend from college, when I broke things off with him, I was so devastated. I remember not being able to eat for weeks because I ended this relationship and I didn't really know why. I just knew he wasn't the right person, but it just broke my heart into a million little pieces because I loved him so deeply and still love him to this day, but it just wasn't the right person. But it was a pretty normal breakup. Awful, uncomfortable, terrible, and then you move on with your life. But other people have different stories. So let's just jump right into them. First up, we have Cassie. I was a senior in high school dating a loser. Still unsure why I dated him. I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere, so before breaking it off, I started flirting with another guy. I eventually broke up with the boyfriend and started getting more serious with the new guy who is now my husband. Ex-boyfriend lost it. Hacked into my Facebook and messaged my now husband to tell him to back off his woman. Broke into my parents' house to leave pictures. Okay. Flowers. And a notebook/journal of why we should get back together. Continued to drive by our house, revving his engine, and even had friends try to get my new number. Ended up going to court for harassment, but he won. Ew, yikes, she said. Okay, how does someone break into your house and then they win? I don't know if you can prove it, per se, but how does that happen? How do they win? Even though this was used for relationship red flags, red flag. If someone breaks into your house to try to get you to get back together with them, that's a no-go. That's a no-go. Next up, Tammy. Breakup story. I once broke up with my boyfriend on Thanksgiving over text message. I mean, many of us have done some sort of breakup over text message. Friendship, relationship, not the best way. I get it though. And it was back when you could only have like 1,000 texts per month. So it was very short and to the point because I needed to conserve text, Completely get it, Tammy. I get it. He was devastated from what I heard. To be fair, we dated for like 3 weeks and I didn't even want to be with him in the first place. But he had the cutest way of asking to be together and it made me feel like I couldn't say no. He brought me to the highest point in the city where there was a blanket and white roses and a sign and all things to go stargazing. What? Okay, that's so cute. That's really cute. I was so caught off guard because I didn't even think we were a thing prior to making it official. So I thought, okay, maybe just maybe I can develop feelings for him. We have all been there. We have all been there. I hope I have at least. But that clearly wasn't going to happen. So I just needed to end it. And I chose the worst day I could, I guess. After the breakup, I discovered there was a fucked over by Tammy club with so many of my guy friends as members, apparently. Okay, those are not good guy friends. But I was extremely naive as a teen, young adult, and thought these guys were just close friends and that they were all happy just being a close-knit group of friends. With that said, in hindsight, I definitely would have done that breakup differently because, wow, not my finest moment. And should have been more honest about my feelings from the beginning. Okay, first of all, you're a teenager. Second of all, texting was very new back then. If you have 1,000 texts a month, like we all did if we were born in that generation, things seem a little easier. 3 weeks is not that long. I'm just saying, I don't think you're necessarily in the wrong here. Sure, you're a young, naive teen, but they all are too. So they're naive to think you're super into them, and you're naive to break up with them over text after 3 weeks. Everyone's in the wrong here. Everyone. Being a teenager is just wrong in general. Okay, Kirsty. I have a doozy. I was living in Arizona and my sister fixed me up with a friend of hers who was from Chile. He was tall, dark, and handsome and totally charming. And as I later found out, an expert at with women's minds. Aren't they all? My husband's not, so they're not all like that. He and I had been seeing each other for a few months when he moved back to Chile. I went to visit and we had an amazing time. We continued to have a long distance thing, but he'd push me away and then pull me back in over and over. Been there, relationship red flag. He'd tell me I needed to see other people, but when I would go out on a date, he was pissed. With all these red flags, I should have ran away fast, but I didn't. He'd charm me all over again and I'd make a million excuses for him. The next year I went to see him in Chile again for Christmas. In the days leading up to my trip, he was telling me how excited he was for me to get there and how he couldn't wait to see me. So I got there and within 3 hours, he tells me that my visit was a mistake and I shouldn't have come. So messed up, okay? His family had like a compound where each of his siblings had their own cabin that they stayed in on the weekends. He had me move all my stuff from the cabin to one of his sister's cabins. Then he told me he'd kind of been seeing someone and wanted to give me a heads up that she might come over to see him. Oh my God. This guy is terrible. This guy is terrible. I wanted to change my flight to come back early, but with it being the holidays, flights were either sold out or outrageously expensive. So I had to stay there with his whole family, knowing we had broken up. Everybody knows. Christmas Day, he left to go spend the afternoon at the other woman's house. It was horrible. Even after I got back home, he continued playing games with me. I finally was able to break free from him completely, and I haven't heard from him in a few years. Okay. I think that one's the top one for sure. If you go to another country to visit someone and they break up with you, instead of doing it ahead of time, that person is not nice. That is not a good person. And I'm all for breaking up in person. That's, the best thing that you can do. But if they're in another country, no, this is a phone call. This is a phone call. Make sure they don't spend money on that flight. Ew, I hate that guy. Danielle, I was studying abroad in Santiago, Chile. Oh my gosh. Okay, I didn't even mean to put those back to back. During sophomore year in college. My first day there, my high school, not so sweetheart, we had been together for 7 years at this point, messaged me on Skype saying he thinks we should take a break and see other people, and if we were still single at the end of college, then maybe we could reconnect. Then proceeded to block me on all social media, so I had no way to contact him since I was in a foreign country for the next 8 weeks. It was honestly a blessing in disguise because I had a freaking blast in Chile and wouldn't have had the same experience if I was worrying about him. Okay, Chile is, what's going on with Chile? That's so funny. But yes, sometimes breakups are often a blessing in disguise, right? Hopefully we can all see that at the end of the day, because breakups suck, but then you look back and you're like, yeah, that's exactly what was supposed to happen. Makes sense. Okay, last one, and I left more for part 2. Catherine. Hey, Julie, longtime fan. I met you back in 2015 at a book signing event in Georgia, which is so cool. 2015, that's wild. It feels like just yesterday I was on a book tour, and now it's 2022. What the hell? Anyway, I figured I had to tell my bad breakup story. I was dating this guy probably close to a year at this point, and we had planned a cruise to take together. When I say that this was the best relationship I had ever had, it was true. He was the best guy, worked hard, had fun together, never really fought, etc., etc., etc. Such a perfect fit for me. Anyway, like 3 days before we were supposed to leave for our trip, he didn't call me after work one night. He worked as a server. It was super odd because he was a very good communicator. So I called a bunch, drove by his house, his work, his route he took, thinking something happened, nothing. Then a few hours later, I got a text from his phone saying his phone was left at a bar. I got super confused on this because he wasn't the bar type of person or even a drinker necessarily. So a few hours later, now in the middle of the night, I got a generic text explaining he went to hang out with a friend that was having a bad time and his phone died. Didn't make sense. The next day I get to work and he sends me a generic text breaking up with me because all of a sudden it didn't feel right anymore. To tell you the rug was yanked out from under me would be an understatement. He stopped returning my texts and my calls, never gave me a reason for the breakup. So eventually I unpacked my suitcase for our trip and never really heard from him. About 6 months later, I had heard that he was engaged, which shocked me even more. Then probably a year after, he reached out saying he was in the middle of a divorce and never stopped thinking about me. He still couldn't give me a reason to why he ended things, which wasn't great closure at the time, but yeah, definitely my worst. Okay, so obviously that guy was seeing the woman that he would marry and was infatuated with her or fell for this girl in a short amount of time, and then they got married and then quickly divorced. But how full of yourself do you have to be to come back around to the person you broke up with and ended things and devastated and think that they will come back to you? You have to be so full of yourself. That is a hot red flag. If a person is that full of themselves that they think they can just get you back after they broke your heart, learn from Catherine. Do not pass go. It's a hard pass from there. These are so fun to read. Not that, we love reading miserable stories, but to know we're not alone in our different breakup stories. We all have similar experiences in different capacities, and it's always nice hearing from other people, and you're like, okay, I'm not so alone. I love hearing your stories. I'll have more topic ideas coming up on my Instagram. So follow me along on Instagram. That's where I share stories of different topics. And then you can always write in to secrets@paleomg.com with your worst breakup story, your relationship red flag. If you have been Tinder swindlered, I gotta find a new word for that. But I wanna hear your stories, and I'll have even more topic ideas in the future because these stories from you guys always make me think of something new. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and don't forget to subscribe so you can see even more. I'm Juli Bauer Roth of PaleoMG. Stay tuned for a couple other videos I think you are going to like.